Alright, let's jump straight into it. Hi, welcome back to another session. Today will be a build and microphones turned on. This time the microphones turned on right from the beginning. Today will be a build in public session. So I have a few projects that I'm working on and that I have some work left undone on that I want to finish today. Well, continue working on today. I have a few issues that need fixing in my Next.js applications. So I have around 4 or 5 projects, side projects, smaller projects right now, that all use the exact same stack, all on Next.js with the Tailwind and with the React components and with very similar helper functions for reading files from the local file system. And rather than copying those components and those files all over from project to project, I want to put them into reusable components, into libraries that I can then import so I don't have to do that work over and over again. Before we start with that, I have one thing left undone from the stream last week that I only saw earlier. When I do these live streams, I turn off dark mode on my machine, and I noticed the server is running on port 3000. Last time we did this podcast component on this one blog post that I have on localhost 3000 creator podcasts. A card that shows the name and the hosts and a URL to a list of podcasts in the realm of founders talking about what it is that they're doing. And why is my server not loading this? And if my server loads this, what's going on? Let's start it again. Something might hang somewhere because I have a couple of servers running during the day and something seems to hang here. But anyways, we created this card and it looked okay in light mode because I use a reusable component for the card with a shadow and with the border radius. And then let's look at the component in the browser. No, nothing. Why nothing? So I'm gonna have to explain what's happening. So I use a reusable component that already has a Tailwind dark mode added to it. So when it switches based on the media query, so based on the whatever the system is set to, it flips to the dark mode version of that. But I forgot to change the text as well. So rather than having light text on a dark background, in dark mode I have dark text on a dark background, which doesn't work at all. Why you not working? Let's look at an example on the live side, because I pushed that live on yesterday, I think. Stream was on Tuesday, so yeah, was yesterday on Wednesday. This is the component, this is the blog post now with a bunch. I added a few more podcasts to the list, and what we see when we switch this now to dark mode. I have to switch my entire operating system. I don't have a dark light mode toggle because I don't need a toggle on this. I thought. Let's see if that holds true. Now the regular text, the headings and the tags and everything else switches to light text. I forgot to add light mode to the text on these cards. So let's see if localhost still doesn't like to load, but we can look at the code already. Let's do VS Code, why don't we? This is a podcast component that we added last time, and it only has very, very little styling. It has a heading, it has a paragraph, and I removed the podcast description. I wanted to add a paragraph about each podcast. Decided to not do that just yet because I didn't have the content. What I saw on the last stream is that styling something, designing something before you have all the content in place is really difficult, because it ended up that some of the stuff that I did on stream didn't really work when I put real text into it. So the podcast TSX. Do I have other servers running that I need to kill? No, this one's no longer running. That one isn't running. We can turn that off. The company website has a server running, but that's a different port. Those shouldn't interfere. Yield UI doesn't have a server running. That's exit out of Vim here as well. Red Roulette doesn't have a server running. Nothing else has a server running. So why is my portfolio taking so long to load? Okay, there we are. It did the thing now. Let's put VS Code right next to it. Come here. We'll only do the dark mode on these for now. The rest can stay as it is. This is the markup for these components. As I said, there's the image here. We don't have to do anything for that for dark mode because they all work relatively well on a dark card, but the text of course doesn't at all. What do we have here? We have an H2 and we have text gray on this link. Now, because this appears inside of a Tailwind prose blog, which is added with the Tailwind typography plugin, which gives us the line heights and everything. That seems to apply a different color on dark mode. So what we can do, we can use the prefix dark : and if the regular color is text gray 900, I like taking the opposite end of the number spectrum. So text gray 100 here. And if we do that and expect this to reload, we have the little loading spinner here. That's taking an awful long time, but we see the host here is in a darker, well, usually a lighter gray. We need to do the same here. So dark, text gray, let's do 300. And the link can stay as blue as it is. Why is this not? What else do I have running? Yeah, I guess we don't need Sketch for this at the moment. So nope, out to Sketch. Okay, and there the text is now light. Let's see if we actually want to make this even lighter. What do I have? What's the regular text? Because I assume they do the same colors on this. Inspect element, what is in Tailwind typography? Inspector element. Because if they do 900 and they change to something else in dark mode, I'd like to do the same. We can't see that here, so let's go to Tailwind CSS Typography. And we can see in there it was in source and styles.js. Yep, come on. Okay. My dog wants to join as I stream today. Yep, niks mehr. Fertig. And we see what's the regular styles. They have a default section here. And they style the links like so. But where's dark mode? Where is dark mode and where is regular paragraph tags? Seems to be, it's not sorted alphabetically. So where is P:? On base, on LG, these are breakpoints. No? Where are the colors? Ah, then they don't set the color on this. Where else could they set the color? They could also set the color on prose. Right, that's what it was. TW prose body and TW prose invert body. And what do they set them to? Prose body is 700, slate 700, which is a shade of gray. Headings are 900. Okay, so because this is a heading and we had that set to 900 as well, we're using gray. Does that mean we need to move to slate? If typography is on slate, then we should be on slate. I'm gonna keep it on gray because I haven't seen a difference yet. And what? Oh wait, no, this is. I am on prose blue. So is that a heading here? That seems to be only for the links, is that right? Okay. So there's TW prose links and TW prose invert links. They switch link colors from 600 to 500 on dark mode. Invert seems to be dark mode. Slate, go back to slate. and invert is invert for dark mode. So anyways, they do 900 for headings, and down here they have invert headings, which is white. Okay, so if I go gray 900, let's go gray 50 here. Where do I have that? Dark text gray. Because I would have that on other components as well. I have it on an article teaser where I go from dark text gray, from text gray 900, okay, to dark text gray 50 as well. So 950 is the right combination here. Let's look at that in the browser. Seems much more readable than dark on dark text. Switch back to light mode. And still readable. I'm okay with the blue links because Brose switches that to a slightly different shade of blue. I'd say it's definitely an improvement over what we had before, so let us... I'm on the main branch. Yeah, fine. I only work on this by myself, so no one else knows or is impacted by this, and I see the only change is in that, so I can... GC is my shortcut for git commit. Add dark mode classes to podcast and git push this to main, and then Vercel will take care of deploying that. I'll get an email in a few minutes that this is live. But what I actually want to do today, let's jump into the projects directory. I have a list of projects here that all use the exact same stack. They're all on Next.js, they're all on Tailwind CSS, and it was the latest versions until they released Next 12.1 just a few hours ago. I might update to that later. But if we look at this, I have, no, there was a close all button here. I have a company website, I have logo search, I have the lovely cons, I have Red Roulette, and I have Yield UI, all very similar. Well, Yield UI is its own package, but if we look at Red Roulette, for example, I have this is all JavaScript still, so we can touch that as well, move that to TypeScript maybe. This is very similar to what's in the company website. And I have repeatable things, like I always want to show the meta tags on a page. I always want to show open graph information. I always want to show a Twitter card. I want to have a canonical URL. And I started moving some of these into their own library, which doesn't do a lot at the moment. And this is a private package that I use across all my other projects, which is super convenient because that is code that I have to write once, and I can then share to all the other projects that I write myself. And we see we only have a canonical, meta tags, open graph, scaffold, title, and Twitter card. Scaffold is nothing but the layout where it has the header at the top, the footer attached to the bottom, and then whatever comes in the middle is my layout component. And I want to use this in all my other projects now. We're going to take Red Roulette now, I think, because I'm not sure where I was at with the other ones. Let's look at what this project is. npm run dev, and where is you? And I think this will be on port, it's on port 3008. It's a half-done project. We can close this here, I think. It is a half-done project that I stopped working on because I had to move to something that paid the bills. But it looks like so. That is 1-0 too many. Is not something that if you work by yourself you will ever have use for. But this was meant to be a tool to help Scrum Masters and Agile coaches plan retrospectives. When I did that in my projects, when we had a Scrum Master, sometimes the regular meetings that we had were a bit uninspired. We always use the exact same exercises, and we went into the weekly meeting knowing exactly, okay, today we are going to first talk about things that we want to keep, things that we want to kick, and things that we want to try. So it was always the exact same format. It didn't inspire a lot of creativity. And that is terrible. That's one of the reasons why I never really got into the whole Scrum thing. But there is a way to spice that up a bit, and I wanted to help people do that. I mean, this needs a lot of love. We can see, and we don't need to go into detail why this isn't where I want this to be yet. But at first, it's a wizard. It asks you what stage your team is in. If the team had just met, if the team's been working together for a bit, if there's conflict in the team, if they're doing really well. And depending on where the team is at, you want to have them do different exercises to get the most value out of the meeting, to leave there with something valuable you can do. So let's say the team is storming. It says trust between team members grows. There is some tension, disagreements, and arguments happen. So the team has been working together for a bit, but doesn't work out just perfectly yet. And then depending on what you select here, you get a list of activities. You're supposed to get a list of activities. Yeah, here we go. For each of the 5 activities that we do in a retrospective. We first want to start setting the stage, then we want to gather some information, we want to cluster that and find out what we want to do. Get out of there with goals that we can pursue for the next sprint, for the next iteration. And then we close the retrospective with how was that, what do we want to do different about this meeting next time. And if there are multiple options here, you can click through and you can get a customized plan for your next retrospective and leave with that. So that by itself was pretty nice, and I want to do more with that. Right now, what we want to do is we want to bring this to where all my other projects are as well. So move this to TypeScript and use these internal components that I use there. So we are going to, let's do this in VS Code, why not? I'm not sure where I'm at with the TypeScript here, because the components that I'm about to import now, they are typed, so it would be helpful to have this be TypeScript already. I see a TS config, so this would in theory be TypeScript. I must have stopped moving it over. What do we have? This is okay. I have one TypeScript file, so I was lazy here. That's okay. That is perfectly okay. So I'm going to start moving this index.js file to a tsx file, and we're also going to npm install at fnteach next. This is my own package. Did I configure that? I don't think I configured that. What do I need to do? I think I need to give you an underscore, the period npm rc. Yeah, it doesn't know where that is because that is hosted on GitHub, and it searches on npm.js, which is not where it's at. So we are going to copy. I had it on company website, the npm rc over to here, and in there it only tells us there's only one single line, like what is the registry that we can find packages that begin with at fnteach. If I install that now, and I had to log in with my credentials here, I have that in another file. I don't want to share my credentials on stream, of course, but you can see how they do that in the, it's called GPR, GitHub Package Registry. Official offer by GitHub. It's free for private packages and free for public packages. Well, it doesn't need to be published on NPM, so long as you tell it, hey, also look over here. So we installed it. Now I can... Okay, so now this file is a TypeScript file, and where it uses the title here, I have my own component now called import title from fnteach next. And it's just a wrapper. That means that I don't have to wrap it in head. It takes care of that for me. Okay, we also don't have any activities on here, so might as well remove that. And we're gonna, now we can remove the import for head. We're gonna get back to this later. Let's first see what else there is that we can change. I don't have meta tags on any of these, which is good and also concerning though, so we'll do that later as well. Same deal on the about page. We're going to import the title from fn_teach next, and we're going to see, if we look closer then after we've done this part, at what other components are in this project, we'll be able to move some of what I have here back to the shared components. Legal notice, I need to update. That is no longer accurate. Title from fn_teach next. And you are the title. What are you complaining about now? I'm using that. Okay, I haven't updated what I complained about here. Cool. Why am I not using any meta tags on here? I'm gonna do that in a bit. Import title from. So far we haven't won much. We didn't have to type the head here. But that isn't enough to be worth the effort. So let's, on the pricing page, add meta tags as well. So we can here add the meta tags. And because these are typed, it's going to complain to me now, right? Because I think those are both mandatory. I need a description and I need robots. So the robots meta tag that would show up. Description we'll have to think about. Description. And robots will be index. Is it follow or do follow? I believe it's index follow. What do we have on the company website? On the slug page. Index follow. Yes, exactly. Okay. We also want a description, information on different pricing options for this. It's not a project, it's a product when we talk about price. That already is good. We can also add a canonical from the same repository, canonical, and the URL is that's on Red Roulette. So https roulette.com/pricing. Privacy policy also needs, the content needs some love, and import title from fn_teach next. Yes. So that here. What else could we move out of here potentially? Oh, and let's make those TypeScript files as well, of course. Rename to TSX and pricing TSX. And legal notice TSX. No W. And the document.js, I don't think okay, I have a few things on here. Yeah, for styles that I want to add on the body, so I guess that has to stay. And there are also the pages under plan. We have the index. Why did I never add meta tags to this? This is concerning. Import meta tags and title from fn_teach next. Even if the meta tags are not a lot of information, even if they are just this is the description and this is the robots description, and I'm just going to take the text from down here. Even if it's just these two values, it's already better than not having any. Robots was index and follow. I'd rather be explicit here. Of course, I could say if you don't specify anything about robots, it's going to be index follow. And I think that's what what search engines would treat it as. But I decided to, for now at least, be explicit about these. This needs to be a TypeScript file as well. Team stage doesn't use this here. Okay. You want to import the same. Import meta tags and title from the fn_teach next. And here. Title and the meta tags. What is the description? That might be a bit too long. I might have to add something to the component to warn me about that. Index and follow for the robots so that search engines know what to index this as, what to treat this as. It's going to be a bit more interesting on the stage slug, because depending on what stage you are at, I'm going to send you to /plan/storming or /performing or what were the others? Models called the Tuckman stages of team development, probably. Import meta tags and title from fn_teach next. So just this here. And the meta tags, I don't think, and now we're gonna have to look at the API behind this. So I have this stage. Let's look at one of the pages here, because I'm not sure what to put here. Robots definitely is index and follow. It's fine if they end up on this page, and it's fine if they want to look at it, and it is fine if they want to follow any links they find here. So plan storming will be a good description for this page. It would still be this. Pick the 5 activities for your next sprint retrospective. If your team is in the phase stage. Pick 5 activities for your next retrospective that match the team stage, that match the forming team stage. So I want to add the team stage here. Pick 5 activities for your next sprint retrospective that match the team stage, and the stage is passed in here, so we can make this a template string, and here I can then use the interpolation and go stage. Before we commit that, let's look at it in the DevTools. So we are on the page that says storming. And I'm not sure if that's storming uppercase or lowercase, probably lowercase, which is fine. It's not titleized. But what are the meta tags that we added just now? Pick 5 activities for your next sprint retrospective that match the object team stage. So good that I checked that out, because that is not a string. What is it? Console lol stage probably has a title. I'd assume probably has a list of activities. A stage is an object that has a title. And it has an excerpt. Okay, that is good. Team stage storming. So I might have to add that text up here. I'm not using this excerpt anywhere else on here. I can permalink slug. So I want the title, not the full object. Stage dot title. Pick 5 activities for your next sprint retrospective that match the storming team stage. It's a description. It's good that we have one. That is, let's also make this a TypeScript file. And let's make this a TypeScript file. Okay, but I have more components in my helper library than we use. If we look at this page, for example, at the pricing page, come on. We see that the footer, which should be attached to the bottom, isn't attached to the bottom. Why is this? Okay. I want this little light gray bar here to be attached at the bottom. And how we do that? So I think that's what the scaffold component would do by itself. There is one in here. There is one in here, and we're going to use, so we're going to call this custom scaffold, because we're going to import another one called scaffold. Import scaffold from fnteach Next.js. Yeah, you're gonna complain that this is not cool now. Must have one parent element, but in scaffold I have the properties header, body, and footer. So in the, let's do them in this order. Header is something, body is something, and footer is something. And I think I see, do I see? No, I don't think I see. No idea why this isn't attached to the bottom when min age screen is set, but anyways, this I have to move around a bit because I need to put this in a, which way around did I do it? I think I put the div outside, class name, give this a py3. So basically I'm taking the components that I have here, the header, main, and footer, and I'm passing them to my scaffold component, which I'm importing from my helper functions, helper library. And if I reload it, nothing changed. Why did nothing change? What else did I set in other projects that made it work there, but not here? On the company website, which I think has this problem as well. Was it in the document? Wasn't in the document, was in the app, wasn't in the app. Okay. Then show me the styles here. This block is that is the header, this is the body, and this is the footer. All of you are inside of this, but you are supposed to be min h screen. Why are you not minimal height of screen? Okay, this is excellent. This is good, because I have the classes flex, flexcall, and min h screen on here. And in the styles that apply, I see flexcall and flex. What I do not see is the min h screen. And that is because of my Tailwind configuration. In Tailwind, we tell it which files to look at when purging. Because if we took all of Tailwind, we'd have megabytes of classes of which we don't use 90%. So we tell it, look at these files, look at my pages, look at my components, look for words that look like Flexbox, that look like Tailwind classes, and keep them. If you can't find a class, toss it, throw it out. And I am telling it to look at components, but it doesn't know to look at my library as well. It doesn't know that what I'm importing here under fn_teach next also has Tailwind classes, because why would it? It would never stop checking everything for classes. So I have to go into my Tailwind config.js, where it says content. I am already checking another plugin that I use. I need to tell it to also check in the node modules directory under fn_teach and next. I know that there's a dist directory, and there is, was it there? There's an ESM directory and JS. Let's see if we need to reload it, or if that applies immediately. So this might need, the Tailwind configuration might require a server restart as well. Where are we at? Down here, and try loading that again. Restarting the server. It's back already. Reload the page. Wait a while for the page to load. Okay, so that wasn't it. Was that not the... That would mean that my path is wrong. Let's go to red roulette. Let's look at the node modules. Let's look at fn_teach and next and dist. And this one doesn't have an ESM directory. That was a third library. So this path was incorrect. I'm telling it, look at exactly this directory in the dist. And any JavaScript file you find here, such as, well, meta tags is not interesting, but such as scaffold. Look at the JavaScript file. If you see anything that looks remotely like a Tailwind class, here we have flex call, and min h screen. Take it, is exactly what this path here represents. And the browser already reloaded, and we see it does what I wanted to. Now this is stuck to the bottom, which is cool. That is good. It stays there even if I resize, and if I have a page that is a bit longer, it would be pushed down. So it is a not a sticky footer, but it is attached to the bottom of the browser. Something's wrong with the styles here that I want to change. But for now, let's look at, we were at the scaffold component. Use the header, use this body, use the footer. And because we use that in all the pages here, I think, scaffold, yeah, that's on all pages, so that will already fix the footer on all of them. Okay, app, I don't have to change anything. Team stage, now what are you unhappy about? Now it wants me to type a few things. I could, actually, yeah. What is it complaining about? The stages. It doesn't know what the stages are. It doesn't know that the stages have an excerpt, slug, and title. It doesn't handle a change event. I think it changes on a radio button. So the event we can type as React. Was it change event? And in here we tell that this is an HTML. Does it have radio element? No, then it would be an input element, right? I guess the radio button count as an input element. Stages are untyped, and we get the stages from get static props, which is not async in this example. So time to look at the library, at the lib directory, because we get them from lib API stages. Lib API stages, and let's make this a TypeScript file and let's have it shout at us. We want to import fs, I think it's called promise as fs, or is it promises? It seems to be plural. Yep. Promises. Get staged by slug. Slug is a string. Let's start here. And I don't think I have custom types in this yet. Nope. So we need a new, we want to tell it what a stage is. So we want to be able to import stage from types. Give me a new directory, new folder. Types. In here we are going to add an index TS file, right? Not a DTS. Export type. What was it? Stage. Yeah, at least it's importable, but we don't know about this directory yet. We need to go into the TS config to tell it if you're looking for at types. You want to really look at the file types. Do we need to tell it index? Let's try it like this. And let's put the types on the side here. Let's put the types on the side here. It won't let me do it. Why not? Come on. There we go. So it doesn't know. Stage implicitly has an any type. Get all stages. This seems to be the wrong way around from what I usually do here. So if we look at one of the other projects, let's take the company website, sure. There I have a page type because I use markdown pages for things like the privacy policy and for the legal notice. Lib API pages. And let us, yeah, it's not going to be pretty, but let's move it over to retro. I'd rather have this be the same across all projects. And for now, I'm going to do that manually. That also could be a thing that would make sense to move to a library. So where are we? Here. First part we're doing promises as fs, path, and meta. Markdown to HTML. I don't think I need that here. And we're importing a type. Yeah, that so far seems to be identical. I use a content directory constant here, and please look in the directory called stages. So here we can use content directory both here and down here. If I have to repeat the value in two places, I run the risk of having a typo in one of them, and then that would make for a very bad time because it would be very difficult to track down. So here I have get all stages, get all stages slugs, const page. Okay, so we want to, what we do here is we have three functions. Get all stage slugs. If we look at the directory, we have a directory called _stages, which is what we're referencing here. And it has adjourning, forming, norming, performing, and storming. And in those, I only have an index file. What was I thinking here? If I only have an index file, then we're going to change that. Then we are going to go to the, where are we at? To the stages. Yeah, no, that's not necessary. So let's do this view. The file in forming we are going to call forming MD. The file in norming we are going to call norming MD. The file in performing we're going to call performing MD. M to the B, M to the B. And then we can put all of them on the top level. They don't need to be nested in directories because I wasn't doing anything with those. Come on. Come on. Slow and steady. Come here. No, it won't let me do that. What's with what? No, you go silent now. Why? I think this seems to be the Apple trackpad. If I press too hard, then it wants me to rename the file. What? Oh, what did I do wrong here? The adjourning file contains forming. So I copied the wrong word. It's good that it warned me that I was about to override the file. Adjourning. Cool, so now we are going to have a file. I have a function that gets me all those slugs. So if I have, I can look at that in VS Code. If I have adjourning, forming, norming, performing, and storming, I want to get these 5 words, for which I read the directory underscore stages. I map over all the file names that I get, and I tell it if you see something that ends with MD, let's actually say it's that make more sense as a regular expression though. If it ends with exactly period MD, remove that. And then we have a function that gets us one of those stages, get stage by slug, and a slug is a string. The full path to this file is the content directory plus the slug, so forming with the MD added back in there. Then we read the files, the contents of the file. We use the meta, which is from Grey Matter, the Grey Matter library, to get the front meta out and get any content that it has. So if there was something in here, here it just says body, here it just says nothing, then we get that out. And we get a, what does it have? Let's say we have nothing. We don't need markdown HTML. I don't expect that to be in there. So the body will be unused. What will we have? A content isn't really necessary, because as I say, we don't do anything with that. I want to have the information: title, excerpt, and order. And we are also going to keep the slug. And because I use description everywhere else in all my other projects, I am going to change it from excerpt to description. Excerpt would make sense if it was a blog post, but here I think a description of the stage makes more sense. A description here, a description here, description, and for storming also a description. In 2 or 3 of them I also had an icon. Not sure if I need that, so we are going to ignore it. We're only going to take title, description, and order. So here we want a description, we want a slug we're gonna pass through, and an order. And then we are going to return that stage. But now TypeScript tells me, hey, I don't know nothing about a description in a stage, so let's tell it about them. Description will be a string, lowercase string. Order will be a number. Slug will be a string, and title will also be a string. And now it has a naming conflict here because I already have a file called getPageBySlug. And I have a naming conflict here. That one I'm going to comment out. We're going to look at how we do that now. Description, order, slug. No, okay, no value exists. I don't have those anywhere because I haven't taken them out of the stage yet. So I want the description, the order, and the title. There we go. Okay, now it's happy with this function. Now, lastly, if I have a way to get a single stage by its slug, I also want one to get me all of them if I want to have an overview. Get all stages slugs or all stage slugs. Where did I copy it from? What did it say there? Lib API pages. Get all page slugs. Yeah, singular makes more sense. Get all stage slugs, and that's also what the function was called down here. I could have checked here. We are going to get all stages. For each slug, we are going to use the get stage by slug function, push it to the array of stages, and then lastly return all those stages. Not immediately, because we also want to sort them by order. I don't want to sort them alphabetically, because adjourning is the last stage. It shouldn't come first. And storming is the second stage. So I have an order attribute in each of the stages' front matter, and we can sort them. Before we return them, we can sort. Sort takes 2 parameters, an A and a B, and both of those are stages. So I can go A.order minus B.order, and I'm not sure if this is the right way around, but we're going to confirm that on the stage overview. Because where do we use get all stages? There is a stages, this is this file. There is a team stage page. Plan a retro. Now the button is invisible. Now the button's invisible. Why is the button invisible now? If we go to that was the Tailwind configuration. Node modules, yield UI, React. Is that not what it? Is that not where it is? In node modules, in yield UI, in React, and in dist. Here I have it nested, but that it would still go down that level. Only look at ESM. Only give me the ECMAScript module, and then we have components here. Why wouldn't that work? Why wouldn't that work? Does the color not exist? What is this button? What is show me the plan page? On pages plan index. There is a link. This isn't the button from the library. That wasn't the problem. And the button, that's the button that says start planning. Yeah. And it's supposed to be BG Indigo 600. Ah, what's the package JSON? No, it is on the latest version of Tailwind. So I thought this maybe wasn't the version that has all the values in it. Why does that not apply to the button? If we inspect it, now, I assume that BG Indigo 600 wouldn't show up over here. Because it doesn't have a background color here either. Where's BG Indigo 600? Why does it only show up on... So on hover? It turns into BG Indigo 700 and that works. And there is no typo in the word indigo. Indigo. And I can see here that it does show the class. Why would 700 work but 600 wouldn't if it looks at the same? What if I go BG Red 600? Am I overriding that with something else? BG Red 600. Border transparent. Font medium, text white, rounded, shadow, text SM. I have a hover class here. And I have a focus class. Will give me that. Why, of all things, would BG Indigo 600 not work? BG Red 500. But that BG Red 500. BG for background. I mean, this is one of the... Why though? What's this? Okay, the nuclear option is always to take the server and stop it. What was it before? 600, right? BG Indigo 600. It's not there. That can't be right. What's it on the live version? A it's also supposed to be on the right. What is... Let's go to we wanted to look at the order of the stages. Let's go to the next page. Cannot be serialized as JSON. Please only return... Okay. What is that? So on this page, on the plan page? Yeah, on the plan page. Okay, I use the function getStaticProps, export async function that is now asynchronous, because that's what the function getAllStages is, and that's why we can't serialize it, because this returns a promise, not stages. So we want to const stages, await getAllStages, bam, and here stages. Reload the page, or have the browser conveniently reload it for us. Okay. What? Why is my API function now looking at invisible files? Let's say this goes back to not being a regular expression. Yeah, of course this doesn't work. Why are you looking for... How did this file get there in the first place? So it is telling me that there's something in my underscore stages directory that it doesn't like. It doesn't like the DS store, which is a macOS, like the thumbnails. Is it called thumbnails? A helper file that tells it what the settings for this directory are. Why would my helper function look at that? Where is it looking at that? Okay, let's add a... Let's see the getAllStage slugs. Is that being called, and what's it looking at? Doesn't... Let's reload the page. It gets called and it finds the DS store. So I can filter the file out, of course. But why don't I have to do that in other directories? Why don't I have to do that here? I don't have it. Oh, okay. This wouldn't happen on the server, like when I deploy this. But if you remember how I just switched this from this regular view to this list view, that's why I created the DS store file. For me, it needed that to store the information that I want to have the list view in this one directory. So if I go to, what did I mess up now? If I now tell it to show me those files again, it has that underscore, that period on DS store file. Let's remove it. I could filter it out now also. I could say, let's not look at invisible files, let's not look at files that begin with a period, or let's not look at files that don't end on MD. I don't need the file there, so let's just not have it. Not the safest probably though. So here I'm now missing a lot of information. The order seems to be correct. So forming, storming, norming, performing. and adjourning. And I wanted to look at, is this order that I do here, A order minus B order, is that correct? Because if I did it the other way around, I would also get the stages in the other direction. So it begins with adjourning and goes to forming. This is not it. So back to A. And I know I renamed it from excerpt to description, so it now shows it's now looking for the wrong property. So in my stages API helper file, I have get all stage slugs, get stage by slug, and get all stages. This is a TypeScript file. Everything is typed well enough. And we can go back to the index, no, to the team stage file, was where it was at. Here it's not an excerpt, it's a description now. Description. And a description down here. Okay, so the text is back. Something seems to be off with the styling, because why is this not... Because here that... Okay. I think that's the same. Is that the same issue? No. Okay, so when... What's going on? So here I wanted... In the original, in the live version, in the deployed version, the heading is a heading, so it appears in bold. And there's like, what stage is your team in? That's all bold. What did I change? That is no longer being caught. How am I losing classes? Font semi-bold. What is happening? I have components. I have pages. So if, okay. The class is font semi-bold, inline block, and text SM. And I see here text SM, inline block. I don't see font semi-bold. This looks like a Tailwind misconfiguration. I did that wrong exactly here. Where is that label defined? That label is right here. Font semi-bold, inline block, text SM. For some reason, this font semi-bold doesn't get picked up. And I am in the file pages, plan, team stage. Pages, plan, team stage. In my Tailwind configuration. Okay. Of course. Of course. Looking at this. That was silly. So the content property in my Tailwind configuration tells it what directories and what files to look at when looking for Tailwind classes that we want to keep. My dog's not here, he left again. And I am telling it to look at all JavaScript files in these directories, but some of them are TypeScript files now. So we need to go and look at all the JS files, the TS files, files that could be called JSX, and files that could be called TSX. So here and here, JSX and TSX. And we're gonna give TypeScript a few seconds to run. And will you look at that? It's back. That is the local version as well. So I bet if I go back here, yeah, the button's purple and the value is being picked up now. That was silly. That was silly. And we also now need to type the theme stage file here. It still complains this is red over here because it doesn't know what stages are. Now we could, there's one of two, at least two ways. We could tell it, well, stages is an array of stages. Is a stage array, and that would be correct. Because our file down here, our function down here gets static props that returns the stages. Even though we know that it is a stage array here, that doesn't get passed to the component itself because TypeScript doesn't know that there is a connection here. It doesn't know that get static props returns what's being passed to this. What we can do instead is we can type this as infer get, was it static props? Get static props type of get static props. So hey, just look at what this get static props function returns and infer the types from that. So we don't need to be overly explicit about what exactly stages is. If we return something else in the get static props, this will be passed here. And we're going to import that from Next. Import infer get static props type from, I think it was Next. Why is this not? This is incorrect. This is being used, right? Has to be. Okay, so now that doesn't complain anymore. Stage 2 icon, slug. I will have to change that completely. But the other thing that I complained about here, where we map over the stages, that is covered now because we know that this is an array of stage objects. The index we don't really use for anything, and that'd be dangerous to do anyways. I don't know why this was here, so let's remove it. Let's clean it up. We also have this stage 2 icon. So stage 2 icon, okay, that I was trying to be clever. And that didn't work so well. Because stage 2 icon here was an object of the 5 different stages. And I told it what icon to use in the outline version and the solid version. So as you can see, if we switch here, if you look at the sun, this is an... If you look straight at the sun, this is an outline of a sun. If I select it, it is the filled version. It is the solid version of the icon. Same as with this sun behind the clouds. Selected, it becomes this more selected style. This is like the checkbox, like the radio button being selected. And I tried doing that with by putting this in an object. Let's say it is an array now, and we are going to put the stage in here as a key value, and this is for stage forming. And this is for stage norming, and we're going to type that in a second. We're going to add TypeScript types to this. Stage is performing, and then we might actually find a better way of doing that, because this right now doesn't seem to be the most ideal way of doing that. Stage adjourning. So stage2 icon now is an array. And as long as it doesn't complain, we might as well leave it at that, but then we need to do something here. Stage2 icon dot find. We can't take it by the slug, but we are going to take item dot stage equals slug. So instead of accessing a value in the object by the lookup key, we're going to say find the first item in which this stage property matches the stage that we are on. And we have forming. That is incorrect. Storming. Thunderstorm is storming. Forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Okay, why? Okay. Doesn't know what these are. Okay, so we do need to type it after all, because it doesn't know that. Where's icon? Okay, so we're gonna have to type that after all. Type, I don't think icon is the best name for it. But we're gonna go with icon type for now, which consists of a stage, which can be any of forming, or storming, or norming, or performing, or adjourning. And we also have outline, which is a, was it JSX element? And we have solid, which is also a JSX element. So these are all references to components that we import here, and we want to be able to use them like they are React components. And this is an array of icon types. What is missing the following properties? Type props key. What? Why? What? Can it be a React node? Because that's what children usually is. That seems to be a closer and more accurate description anyways. Now why won't you do the thing? JSX element type icon solid does not have any construct or call signatures. So I might just ignore this for now, because this isn't why I came here. Let's take the easy way out and say you are any, and then you will let me do that, right? Is possibly undefined, and I promise that it is not. Icon is set on all of them. Going to ignore this. What else do we have here? For plan, we have get static props. Yeah, that's not exciting to do. Do I need TypeScript here? I don't need TypeScript here, so let me fix that off stream. And actually, let's do the same with the team stage. Then we can remove all the stuff that's TypeScript-y on here. This part was correct, but I don't want to invest too much time into fixing the other ones right now. we weren't done. So far I haven't seen anything that I can move into the component library. What other components do we have here in this? An activity lane is where we have the selection and can move to another thing that we want to do. Yeah, this is gone. Container footer. So not in this. In team stage, no. So not in... This does seem to be used anyways. Not in this we don't. But there's things that I want to put here. I always like having a newsletter sign-up form in the footer. And I'm going to take that from one of my other projects. And I have one in... Do I have one on the company website? I don't think I do. Don't think I do, but I have one. Do I have one on logo search? Don't think this has a newsletter sign up either. Nope. So we are going to take it from my personal site, which definitely has one. Here in the footer, just a thing that says subscribe to my newsletter, get updates. Like this text I probably want to be able, these texts I want to be able to adjust. Different title, different description here. But this can always say subscribe for all I care, and this text we might make configurable. So let's go and extract that. It's what we call something like a newsletter sign up form. Oh, okay, there it is. Newsletter sign up form is exactly what it's called. We are going to take the entire thing and we are going to move it now not to the retrolet directly, but to the helper library. So back to fnteach next. Okay, there it is. Didn't think it'd stress it this much. On source, add a new folder for, I think newsletter sign up form is kind of what it is. So newsletter sign up form. The new file, the newsletter sign up form.tsx, and copy that code here. There's quite a few flaws with this that I see that we'll get rid of. It is typed already. This is nice. Now I can't rely on other components. So any icons I would have to put in here manually. Which I can. And trigger event we don't have, but we could offer a way to hook into an event. So if we want to do something after a submit, we could add a property that's literally called after submit. Let's see. And we also want to have a test, a newsletter sign up form.test.tsx. For now, I'm going to put very little in here. Import newsletter sign up form from newsletter sign up form. Describe the newsletter sign up form. This will later use the React testing library. for now, I'm going to put just a placeholder test. Might be able to do this test driven next time. It test, just a test, so this file isn't empty, because otherwise Jest will complain if I have a file called .test.something that doesn't contain a single thing. Expect 1 + 1 to be 2. I want the test to pass when I run it for the first time. We see this import isn't being used. That is fine. Now this uses values from another library that we need to install. With this being a library itself, we are going to install it like so, npm install gimme yield UI React. But we will have to move it in the package.json when we're done, because we don't want it to always install the entire thing. We can say this package, if this package is being installed by some other package, and it might already have this yield UI React, those might clash. And we can tell it to require the project that uses it to also have it in a specific version, but we're not bringing it there ourselves. We just, if you use this, we require that you have it. And we can do that by in the package.json moving something out of the dependencies into the peer dependencies, which means if someone uses us, they need to have at least UI React version 0.1.3 or higher, so 0.1 whatever, and they need to have at least Next.js version 12.0.10. We can have dev dependencies, those won't be installed by the package that uses us, and these will be installed if we run npm install on this regularly. So that'd be good. I saw errors here because we don't want to trigger an event. So I don't want to trigger an event now, but I might want to give someone the option of passing something that happens on success. So let's say on success we call this, and on failure we call this, which would mean that our form receives two properties, on failure and on success, and to type them, they are on failure is optional, we don't need to do anything, and it would be of type function that does something void. I don't care what this, I don't need a return value from this. Same for the on success, optional, and a function. Now these of course could be undefined. I wonder if this works. This wouldn't work, right? So if we have an on success, then call it, but otherwise do nothing. Is that it? And on failure, if we have an on failure, call it, otherwise do nothing. The on submit. Now this has its own on submit, but it wouldn't make sense to always hard code it to this endpoint, because not everything, not every component, not every project that we use this in will use the same endpoint. I could require that, of course, and then they'd all have to make sure that they have this, but that doesn't make sense. No plugin would require us to do that. Okay, but what I also didn't like is how I do the states here. I have a failure, a loading, and a success state, and what this really needs is a state machine. So my component can be in any one state. If I have multiple booleans, I could run into a state where all of them are true. I could be in failure and success mode because I forgot to update it somewhere. Well, what I really want is for it to always be in one concrete state. It could be in failure mode and then it can only be in failure mode, or it can be in success mode and then it can only be in success mode. And I have that somewhere. I have that in the Lovely Codes project, pretty sure. And this is part of the reason why I'm doing this in the first place, because I have things everywhere in all of the projects, and it's just not super clear where I have the most recent version. And if I now had the exact same email newsletter sign up form in 5, 6, 10, 20 different projects, and I have to, or I want to make a change in one, and I have to make the same manual change in all of them, that'd be super tedious, and I'd be just bound to miss at least one of them. So what I'm doing here is, by extracting that to its own library, I have one location where I have to manage that, and everyone else can just use it, and I will know that it is the same across all of them. Here is called email subscription form, and that is it. So we have an object here called states. Let's move you here. Come on. Almost got it. Okay, let's hit that button. Instead of this being that, let's say we have a list of an object of states, and then I can only be in a state. So instead of having a failure, loading, and success state, I have a state called state, and I initialize it to idle. When I first go to this component, it doesn't do anything yet. But then when something happens, so when I have a success, when I change the email, I can set the state. No, wait, so when I change the state, I will be back in idle mode. No, if I change the email. So let's say I have submitted the form and it shows success, then I change the email address again. Then I want to be back in the idle state. States.idle. Is that right? Is that what we do over here? Yeah. This does other stuff also, which is odd. On submit. So when I am submitting, what is the state that I'm in? It has to be state loading. It can't be failure, it can't be success, because I am, and this is what this said here also, it has to be loading. And then afterwards I don't need to set loading to false, because either the response is okay, and I set the state to states.success, or I did not get an okay, and then I set the state to states.failure. State plural states loading. So I don't need to make sure that after the response comes back, I first stop the loading and then also set the success or the failure. I only need to make sure I set the one state that it can be in, which already is a bit more safe. It is disabled if the state is states.loading. So wherever I had these booleans now, I need to introduce this state comparison to something. We can shortcut that by saying const is loading is if the state equals states.loading. It looked like not much has changed down here, but under the hood there is a completely different representation of when it is loading or when it is in success or error. Can I find name loading? Yeah, okay, I named it loading initially, so let's stay with loading. And failure and success work the same way. And success and success here. So that by adding the state machine here, that already makes this a bit more robust. So I'll have to pass this endpoint to the form as well, and if I had a regular form, this would be the action. So let's say we have an action. The action would be mandatory, and it will need to be a string. So await action. So we have action and we have method. Where does the data go in this? I'm gonna say we always. Can we say that? Yeah. Okay. So this form is always going to send JSON information there. I think the projects that use that can cover for that. And what else do we need to change? So I wanted to the enter your email, that can stay. This doesn't have the heading. This doesn't have the heading that says subscribe to my newsletter. This doesn't have the line before that. This is only the input field and the button and this text that says I respect your email privacy, unsubscribe anytime. Might as well make this optional. So let's say this would be called a disclaimer. That way it doesn't need to be hard-coded across all of them. And a disclaimer would be optional. And if we had it, it would be a string. So here we're only going to put that if we have a disclaimer. Text would be the same. Thank you for signing up. Please confirm your address by clicking the link in the email you just received. It'd be fine because all of them are going to require that. Or if there is a failure, something went wrong, please try again later. I am okay with hard coding that, sure. There is an icon here. I had a loading animation somewhere. Where did I have that? I think that was in another project again. Again, this is why I'm doing this in the first place. I want this to be uniform across all of my projects. Because here I didn't use an icon that rotates. I had a neat animation. Newsletter sign up form. Oh, that's where I took it from. Then it must be on Lovely Cons. Let's see, in the Lovely Cons project, in the components, the email subscription form, not the newsletter sign up form. Ah, okay, I could have taken it from here directly, because this is where it did all the things with the states. Seems quite a bit simpler. So here I use the use effect more. if the email changes and it is not empty, set the state to idle. Okay, I'm gonna see what this one looks like before adjusting it already. What did I want to do? I wanted to compare the animation. I wanted to take this here, which is just some tailwind, and instead of having a rotating icon, this is what goes into the button. Type submit. All of this. So div class relative I had, so I can keep that, and I have this loading shortcut here. This animation, and here it said loading, and subscribe. Yeah, so this icon I can remove, the loading indicator I can remove. This. Now let's just see what that would do already. This is a private package, so if I publish this now, no one is going to hurt. So we are going to go to, I just want to see if that would work in theory. And let's go to the package.json. Let's update the version to 0.7. Oh. No. Let's go to the package. JSON. Right here it had the peer dependency on UDI React. This is new. I could bump it to 0.1.0, but again, this is internal. npm run, no, npm run build. And if that is fine, that only runs a regular TSC, so only exporting it as an ECMAScript module. What's taking you so long? And then I can npm publish it. npm publish. Let's do a dry run first. npm publish --dry -run. This is the files that it would publish. Readme, bal config, bunch from the dist directory. The jest config, I guess I could remove. Why are the tests in there? Okay, so for now it's gonna be fine. But I don't really want to publish the tests with this as well. You could maybe make it a bit smaller, but tests are empty anyways. I'm gonna clean that up some other time. npm publish, because I want to see what it looks like if in retrolet. I now go to the package.json and I update to fn-teach next. Okay, this would already install it, but let's be explicit. Is this published? Yeah, this is published. So npm install here. This would tell me at least one. So it updates to the latest fn-teach next, and it would install the yield UI React, because that one includes the other. Changed one package. Maybe it was already included, so it didn't need to be installed again, which is the benefit of having it be a peer dependency. I'm gonna go to the footer in retrolet. To the footer JS component, make that a footer TSX while we're here. And we are going to import the, what's it called? The newsletter sign up form from fnteach next. And we are going to put it where? The footer isn't ideal anyway, so I'm just going to put it anywhere for now as the newsletter sign up form. What do we need? We need an action. Oh, okay. It can't find it because I forgot to export it. That is unfortunate. Source index. It's the wrong project again. On here on fnteach packages, fnteach next, source, newsletter sign up form. I export the component here, but it's not being picked up. I could have seen that in my dry run. The MNO default as newsletter sign up form from this directory. And this file newsletter sign up form. Now I need to bump the version number again. Nope, package JSON in the fnteach next 008. Right, because if we look at what was exported here, it was exported, but it never showed up in the index in the main entry file to this. First we need to do npm run build, and then we're going to npm publish again. I can in the red roulette already go to 008. We want to install 008 in a second. Is the build done? Still not done. npm publish. I could have just changed them immediately. npm publish, and that one is quicker. And then we can install it. npm install. Would have to tell me again, changed one package. If that is available already, that would work. Yep, changed one package. Now it can't complain in the footer anymore, right? Now it doesn't complain about the import, but it does complain about, hey, you're missing something here. Because we need at least action. The action, it doesn't really need to exist. I'm not checking for it existing, and I'll add that later, but that would be an endpoint that will then receive information from this form. What does it look like in the browser? So if we go back to the local server, failed to read source code from... Okay, it doesn't sometimes pick up when I rename files. So I renamed the file footer.js to footer.tsx. Didn't like that very much. And now I want to see some form show up. Any form. I want to look kind of like what I had in the other project. This still unchanged. Good, we didn't do anything with that. And now we have enter your email and subscribe. That is neat. And we can also add the disclaimer, which was called disclaimer. It's optional. I respect your email privacy. Unsubscribe anytime. I think something along those lines was what that was. I respect your email privacy. Unsubscribe anytime. Cool. When I now add dom@fnteach.com and I hit subscribe, I see my animation that I couldn't check before, and it tells me thanks for signing up. Please confirm your address. Why does it say okay? It says okay because I sent something to Slash, and Slash said, yeah, sure, here I am, 200, gives me the status code 200, whether that is accurate or not. So it's going to be at, what was like in the others API, what was it? The action was API email subscriptions. Is this lovely cons? Then this would make most sense. So I'm going to have an endpoint at API email subscriptions that I'm going to send this, direct this post to. Email subscriptions. Why would that give me everything went well? Reload the page so this flash disappears. And dom@fnteach.com. Subscribe. Okay, now I get the expected error because it's posting this to API email subscriptions, which doesn't exist yet. Of course it doesn't, we haven't added that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I think that was good enough. This took, it just takes a while, and I want to remove the effort of making these kinds of changes by having them centralized. If I can now compare that to what I have in the other projects and make sure they all use these helper library components and do the same with any helper functions that I have, anything that saves me from having to repeat the same code in multiple places and maintain the code in multiple places, that would be a boon that would make my life a lot easier. It would make it easier to spin up a new project as well. I don't need to keep them infinitely flexible because those will be in a private package only used by projects that I create myself. And I see I need to change like everything in the footer here because that is now an FNTeach project. That's no longer a personal project. So lots to do that I will have to continue with next time. Yeah, okay, so this layout needs to be adjusted. This whole footer will become a reusable component that will contain more slots like these, like give me a list of links. I'm going to put it here, put something on the right side here, whether that is a subscription box or something else. So I can create larger components that I want to reuse and have an easier way to combine them than to larger pages. I think I'm gonna call it a day here. It was neat to see that I can move this over and that I can reuse it in multiple places. This isn't ideal yet, of course, but I think the direction is very good. And I will have to, I thought I'd do just this is me building public today, basically. This is work that I had to do anyways, and this is me just taking you on the road there with me. I will do more like these probably, where I will narrate while I do the regular work. Might have to do the next ones a bit faster. Thank you for tuning in. The next stream, as always, will be on Tuesday, 10 p.m. Central European Time, or Thursday after that, same time, although there might be a change coming up to the schedule soon. I'll let you know if that happens. Otherwise, of course, you can always catch the previous recordings on YouTube. Thank you for hanging out, and I will talk to you soon. Have a lovely rest of your day or evening or whatever it is in your time zone, and talk to you soon.